Okay, let the record reflect. We have reconvened with all members present on our January 25th, 2021 meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, let me have a motion for the reorganization minutes of January 2nd, 2021.
So moved.
Maureen with this, or Maureen with the second. And any discussion or corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Okay, that was unanimous. A motion for executive minutes of January 11th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any, actually we've already discussed, all in favor?
Aye.
Reflect it was unanimous. And regular minutes of January 11th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, corrections? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
That was also unanimous. Before I go into my normal greetings, I usually do this right after the pledge, but I do want to recognize or remember two Madison residents who died in the last 2 weeks. Palmina Rose DiBiase passed away at the age of 91 on January 14th, surrounded by her family in the home that she and her husband built on Dean Street. Born to Antonio and Rose Alaco, she grew up on North Street, as noted in her obituary, Madison's Little Italy, and remained a lifelong resident of Madison. She overcame childhood battle with polio, and as a young woman, she began her career as a seamstress with Maiden Form in Newark. She married the love of her life, Thomas Louis DiBiase Sr. in 1952, and together they built the house on Dean Street, raised a family of 3, and in midlife, she completed her GED and went on to earn her practical nursing license, and she was devoted member of the St. Vincent Martyr Parish. Palmina is survived by her daughter, Pamela Cucco, Janice Piccola, who was our former downtown manager, and her son, Thomas, foreman in the Madison Water Department. She leaves 7 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren behind. She was predeceased by her husband, Thomas, 60 years of marriage, and she predeceased by her siblings, Pauline, Anna, Patricia, Mary, and Carmela. And sadly, we also remember Palmina's sister, Mary Flood, who died from complications due to COVID on January 11th at Morris View Nursing Home. She was 96. Mary was born in Madison to Antonio and Rose Alaco, and was a lifelong resident of Madison. She went to St. Vincent Martyr School, then Madison High School, graduated from Newark Presbyterian Hospital School of Nursing, and attended Rutgers University in Newark. He later attended Seton Hall University in South Orange in the evenings while working full-time, receiving her certification in school nursing. She worked at the Presbyterian Hospital in Newark in labor and delivery, and after several years, she resigned from the hospital and became a public health nurse in Newark's health department. She then married Robert Edwin Flood, and they had 4 children, Bobby, Rosemary, Stephen, and Susan. She was predeceased by her husband, Robert, who died suddenly on his 49th birthday. He was serving as a captain for the Madison Fire Department at the time. Mary cared for her 4 children and went back to work as a public health nurse in Madison for 30 years, and she was assigned to St. Vincent Martyr School, Bailey Ellard High School, as a school nurse in Madison. In addition to her children, she is survived by 7 grandchildren as well as 5 great-grandchildren. Let's take a moment to remember Palmina Rose DiBiase and Mary Flood, and let us also remember, as we did last Tuesday, the 400,000 who have lost their lives to COVID-19. Let us pass our thoughts on to the families that they have left behind. Thank you. As I mentioned in our last meeting, I attended the Chamber of Commerce virtual breakfast to discuss our road to recovery from the pandemic. This is related to our downtown businesses in particular. The well-attended Zoom generated some great discussions, and while we have much work to do in the coming year, I believe there is optimism as we begin to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And last Wednesday was the one-year anniversary of the first reported COVID-19 in our country. And as we know, went very quickly from an interesting story to a worldwide pandemic, changing the way of our lives. We won't pull out of this as quickly as we were dragged down, but we will come back Madison strong. And of course, last Wednesday was also the inauguration of Joe Biden as our 46th president and Kamala Harris as vice president and the first woman to hold national office. Every 4 years, our country comes together for inauguration. For many of us, it's either a time to see our party settle into the White House or see our party pass on the keys to the other party. But for our country, it is a time to celebrate our democracy. This year was very different with a pandemic and 20,000 troops protecting the Capitol, but it was good as any virtual celebration could be and a statement on the resilience of our great country. And yes, the inauguration occurred 2 weeks after the attack on the Capitol, which we discussed in our last meeting. We have learned much since then, and many arrests have been made, and with many more to come. We also see a commitment to hold all those responsible accountable for their action, while also looking into the causes of the attack and the deficiencies with defending the Capitol. As a nation, we must work together to address the causes behind the attack on our Capitol, as well as the continued violence in cities across this country. And we must start now. And we are all committed. Thank you. And let's move on to reports from committees. Public Safety, Council President Byrne. And you're muted. There you go.
Okay, thank you. Our firefighters and EMTs have received their second COVID vaccine shots. The remaining firefighters have received their first COVID vaccine and will be getting their second shot in February. The fire department has taken delivery of new battery-operated hydraulic extrication tools. Firefighters have familiarized themselves with the new tools at a recent drill, and they were placed into service on the new rescue truck. They will be relocating them to the new rescue pumper when it is delivered later this year. Purchasing the tools now avoids an anticipated price increase in the coming months. I met with Madison volunteers Matt Keene and Joe Gilmore this week to discuss the Madison Fire Department. Madison is what is known as a hybrid department comprised of volunteer and paid professionals. Currently, there are 9 volunteer members and 14 paid professionals, including the Fire Chief Lou DeRosa. We will be swearing in 2 new volunteers into the Madison Hook and Ladder Company number 1, Patrick Colligan and Randy Vargas. The fire department is looking to increase their dangerously low volunteer ranks. If you're interested in joining the department as a volunteer, go to www.madisonfd.com for more information on how to join and to fill out an application. And from the police department, on January 6, 2021, the Madison Police Department holding facility was inspected for compliance by Ronin Security Solutions under the authority of the New Jersey Department of Corrections. As a result of the inspection, our department was found to be in full compliance with the requirements of New Jersey Administrative Code 10A:34, which outlines the requirements and standards for a municipal detention facility. That's my report.
Thank you very much. And we'll now go on to Finance and Borough Clerk, Ms. Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor. Important reminder from the tax department, the first quarter property taxes are due February 1st. Given the pandemic, we are encouraging residents to either mail in their payment or to pay online. Having your payment wired from your bank to the borough is very easy. Just visit rosenet.org, click on the link that says online bill pay, and follow the instructions. Tonight, we're going to continue the work on the 2021 budget. Back in December, we discussed the proposed 5-year capital plan. 2 weeks ago, we discussed the Open Space Recreation Historic Preservation Trust Fund, and we also reviewed the 2021 road construction program. So tonight, we are going to introduce the funding ordinances for the roads program. This is important so that our engineer can solicit bids for the projects. We get a better pricing when we bundle all the roads together, and we do it early in the season. And we are also going to have a budget presentation on our public works and utilities. Our public works director, Ken O'Brien, will talk about his operation and about the water utility. Jim Mattina, our electric utility superintendent, will also talk about the electric utility, and then Jim Burnett was going to present the financial performance of the water and electric utilities. And we're really very fortunate to have our own electric and water utilities. When there's a problem or a service interruption, we have our staff on the spot very quickly to make the repairs. And the utilities also generate the excess funds that are used to keep our property taxes down. We are one of 8 municipalities that operate our own electric utility. And in fact, Madison seceded from Chatham Township in 1889. And one of the first decisions the mayor and council made back in 1890 was to create our own electric and water utilities. That's my phone making all that noise. And then the budget process began back in the summer when the administration started developing the capital and operating budgets within department heads. So we're going to have 8 council meetings worth of budget hearings, and then the governing body is going to discuss all the alternatives for putting this budget together to make sure we give you your services and keep your taxes low. And on February 8th, we were going to discuss the municipal budget and municipal surplus. And on February 22nd, we're going to have the department head presentations. March 22nd, we have our final budget discussion. And then on April 26th, we pass it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Public Works and Engineering, Mr. Hoover.
Thank you, Mayor. The Department of Public Works, DPW was planning for 2 snowstorms back to back, I believe, ice removal and sewer jetting. The jetting schedule, depending on the weather and other problems that may arise, for the week of January 25th to 29th this year is Prospect Street, Belmont Street, Keep Street, Lincoln Place, Kings Road from YMCA to Cross Street, Cottage Place, and Seaman Street. Unfortunately, this is a sad story. Unfortunately, there have been a number of recent instances where rocks, logs, and other objects were thrown onto the surface of the ice rink, which is meant for the benefit of all employees, all people of Madison. We ask that everyone please adhere to all rink rules at all times and do everything they can to maintain the quality of the skating surface. Although the weather has limited the rink's availability so far this season, we're hopeful that colder weather in the forecast will allow us to open the facility for skating. DPW has taken everything they can think of away from the ice rink that could be thrown onto with the exception of all the dead wood from the woods. The DPW drives by all the time and asks people, adults and kids, to not throw stuff on the ice. He spoke with the police chief and asked him if the police department could keep an extra eye on it, and he said they would. Engineering. 2 proposed road improvements, as Ostrey Bailey mentioned. Capital appropriations will be requested tonight to assure road projects are bid as on a schedule to allow construction over the summer months. Morris County cooperative vendors will be used for the majority of resurfacing work, and awards are scheduled next month. Anthony and Wayne reconstruction projects will be bid independently and also advertised in February. An updated stormwater management ordinance mandated by the state of New Jersey will be finalized tonight on the successful planning board hearing and referral on January 19th. This action will allow the Borough of Madison to meet compliance deadlines through March 2nd associated with its current Tier A municipal stormwater general permit issued by the Department of Environmental Protection. An $80,000 grant application under the Morris County Community Development Block Grant Program for rehabilitation of public utilities within an approved census tract was submitted on January 5th in advance of the county deadline. A leaking water main, this is a serious story too. A leaking, but a heroic one on the part of our employees. A leaking water main beneath Greenwood Avenue Bridge overpass on Interstate 24 was repaired successfully last Wednesday during the day by Matina and Son utility contractors working under the emergency contract provisions of local public contracts law. Late morning traffic was affected in the eastbound lane, but the subcontract traffic vendor and state police worked together to assure safe operations. A confirming resolution is on the agenda this evening. DPW was informed by a passerby that water was leaking, a Madisonian passerby, water was leaking from the bridge on which Greenwood Avenue Bridge over Route 24. We found a joint to be leaking and immediately worked with the CFO to ensure funding to do the repair. The repair was quite involved as we had to contact the New Jersey lane closure highway. The repair was relatively easy once we uncovered the main, which was insulated, and found bolts that had rusted and had somewhat separated. We had our contractor do the repair since he had the equipment to work 16 feet above the ground. We opened the roadway and the job was completed in 6.5 hours. And the Recreation Department, in accordance with the New Jersey Department of Health guidelines and in cooperation with the Board of Education, it is intended to expand indoor winter sports programs in the near future. At this time, state guidelines limit activity to small practices and do not allow the presence of spectators or unnecessary personnel. We would like to thank the Board of Education for working with us to provide Madison children with additional recreational opportunities. Despite the impacts of the pandemic and the resultant loss of spring season, our final total for 2020 rental revenue was $22,662. The spring is typically our longest and busiest season, but we were able to make up some of the lost revenue during what was a very active summer in terms of outdoor activities. And lastly, the spring-summer 2021 schedule has been generated, but there are still some open time slots left for summer months. Please email Zach Ellis at recreation@rosenet.org if you're interested in booking times at one of the borough's outdoor facilities. The Madison Environmental Commission. The townwide yard sale will be held on Saturday, April 17th. Saturday, April 17th. It will be a tri-town event with both Chatham Borough and Chatham Township participating. Shade tree management. The 2020 borough planting program, which normally completes in June, has finally completed in early January. This year, DPW and Shade Tree Management Board had to deal with the following constraints. Due to high demand for residential landscape improvements, the tree nursery could not meet its initial commitment to Madison and broke the tree into 2 deliveries, one in the spring and one in the fall. COVID-19 delayed the planting of trees. Leaf pickup was happening at the time of the fall tree delivery. A total of 120 trees were planted in the borough streets and parks. Plans are now underway on the 2021 borough tree planting, hopefully getting back to scheduled spring plantings. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And Community Affairs, Ms. Cohen.
Thank you, Mayor. From the Downtown Development Commission and the Director of Business Development, the DDC reorganization meeting was held on Thursday, January 21st, welcoming 2 new members and electing the new executive board. Parking permit renewals are ongoing. If you have not already done so, please email parking@rosenet.org with questions or to request an online application. From the Chamber of Commerce, look for a new rollout of the loyalty rewards card in the coming weeks. Chris Pfeiffer of Pfeiffer Designs will be speaking to the businesses on the Madison branding, the new downtown logo and flag at the virtual networking breakfast on Tuesday, February 9th. And the Chamber is currently working on some shop local programs and member engagement activities for the upcoming months to continue to support and promote our downtown businesses. The Madison Community Arts Center, there's a Red Cross blood drive at the Arts Center Wednesday, January 27th from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. All slots are currently full, which is great. And Studio Allegra will actually be using the Community Arts Center on Saturday, January 30th to record several scenes from their Nutcracker. MACA, we have a board meeting scheduled for Wednesday, February 17th at 4 o'clock. During the winter months, they have been busy writing grants and applying for grants. The Kirby Foundation awarded a $12,000 grant towards the cost of a lighting control board. Numerous grant applications are out for $2,000 to cover the cost of wall hanging system for artwork. And the new website is up and running, www.madisonartsnj.org. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And utilities, Ms. Ehrlich.
Thank you, Mayor. From the electric department, last year for the first time, the electric department self-performed the annual tree trimming for line clearance. Analyzing the 2020 labor costs versus the 2019 work, which was performed by an outside contractor, Department Head Jim Mattina found the following. In 2020, the electric department worked 4 weeks for a total of 69 hours trimming trees on dirty streets for a cost of $21,540. Contrast that with 2019, when an outside contractor worked 3 times as long for 12 plus weeks for a total of 483 hours, trimming 35 streets for a cost of $72,450. That's over 3 times the cost of our own department performing the work. So clearly a great success, and thank you to the electric department for discovering a new way to create savings in the borough by self-performing this required maintenance work. In the last 2 weeks, the electric department crews upgraded service at DeHart Place and Cedar Street as part of infrastructure maintenance, setting up 2 new poles, a new transformer, and new hardware. They also set 2 new poles for a secondary service feed at 15 Fairview. From the water department has diagnosed, repaired, or assisted in the repair of 3 water leaks, including the dramatic repair that John referred to, the water leak on the 8-inch main that hangs under the Greenwood Avenue Bridge on Route 24. So great work to all involved. In that case, the leaky joint was repaired and traffic was restored to normal after the 6.5-hour operation. I also, at the start of a new year, want to take a moment to recap Madison's work to improve energy efficiency, reduce our energy costs, and decrease the borough's carbon footprint in 2020. This is a great time to look back on where we've come from and what we can look ahead to this year. I'm really excited to look ahead to increase energy savings in 2021 and take additional steps to advance climate action in Madison this year. So here's a look back and a look ahead. As of today, 80% of the borough's electric meters have been replaced with smart meters. That's 5,490 of our 6,700 meters. So for context, smart meters are designed for 2-way communication. They transmit pricing and energy information from the utility company to the consumer, and they record use data from the customer. Utility companies can use smart meters to implement a variety of load reduction and energy saving programs, which helps to reduce the cost of providing electricity to the community and reduces the customer's energy bill. So all of Madison's smart meters and area data collectors that gather the information from the smart meters have been installed by borough staff, which is a great accomplishment and a real source of pride to our electric department. And we can now communicate remotely with all of these meters, 80% of our borough's electric meters, without having staff go onto properties to read the meters. So more on plans for these meters in just a minute. Last year, the borough installed 10 electric vehicle charging stations. That's 5 sites with 2 charging stations each. We also have a grant application in to the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection for an additional 10 charging stations. If that grant is received, it would make Madison one of the leading cities in New Jersey for EV charging stations per capita. So in addition to pursuing these charging stations, I hope the borough can continue to find new ways to encourage electric vehicle adoption in Madison, because we are all going to need to pitch in across the state to achieve New Jersey's ambitious goal of having 330,000 electric vehicles registered in New Jersey by 2025. So we have our work cut out for us. The Madison Electric Department has now replaced 250 streetlights with energy efficient LED lamping. I think it often goes unsaid, but a real perk of having our own utility is owning and operating the lights in our streets, which many communities don't control and can't replace as we can here in Madison. Last year's municipal budget included a $200,000 appropriation for utility initiatives supporting energy transformation. I think this was a great opportunity that we had to set aside $200,000 from our surplus to advance energy transformation and within our utility. And this year, those funds have been put in reserve. We'll be discussing in 2021 what measures to implement. The next update is that the borough is working with a consultant hired through a $10,000 grant awarded to Madison to study the feasibility of generating our own solar power here in Madison, either as a community solar program for residents to opt into or as a municipal solar facility. The borough will also review electric utility policy to see how Madison can continue to encourage on-site power generation by utility customers. We launched, as I hope you all know, a new online bill pay platform called Invoice Cloud that allows residents to go paperless, pay via text, pay by credit card, and preload their payment information so they can enjoy automatic bill pay. These added conveniences benefit utility customers, but also add efficiency to the borough by saving staff time, postage, and paper. Looking ahead to 2021, we'll start to use smart meter data to begin analyzing power consumption with the goal of developing so-called time of use rates for electricity. Time of use rates will encourage residents to consume electricity during off-peak hours. This will flatten Madison's consumption curve and reduce our peak consumption. This in turn reduces Madison's reliance on the oldest, most inefficient, and most polluting electric generation facilities in the area. These are the coal-burning peaker plants that kick on at times of highest demand. So when we can discourage residents from using electricity at peak times, we reduce the borough's carbon footprint dramatically by avoiding the activation of these peaker plants. Also in 2021, we aim to roll out the water meter pilot program that was unfortunately delayed last year due to COVID. We will work towards adding advanced metering infrastructure to all water meters in order to measure water consumption accurately and improve efficiency in customer water usage. So I hope everyone is encouraged that the borough is working hard to improve efficiency and reduce our carbon footprint. And I'm really excited for what lies ahead in 2021 as we take further steps to advance climate action in Madison this year. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And Health, Mr. Landrigan.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a reminder that pet license applications for 2021 are now available. Renewal notices were sent by email and US mail. Those that have not received them can get the applications and register their pets, can download the forms on RoseNet, and they need to do it by the end of this week. Okay, in regards to COVID, which is on everybody's mind. As of today, Madison reports 509 total confirmed cases of COVID-19. 49 cases are currently considered active. And in terms of confirmed cases in this January has seen the highest number since the start of the pandemic. A continued reminder that non-essential travel outside the region, Pennsylvania, New York, Delaware, and Connecticut is highly discouraged. Vaccine sites in Morris County, including the regional site at the Rockaway Mall, are now open, as are New Jersey and Morris County call centers, which will be particular help to seniors and others with limited internet access. The New Jersey Vaccine Call Center can be reached at 855-568-0545. Visit RoseNet for updates on vaccination programs, testing locations, and other pandemic-related items. That's it, Mayor.
Thank you. And now we're on to communications and petitions.
None received, Mayor.
Thank you. And now we're on to our first of two invitations for discussion. This one is limited to our agenda discussion item and also the resolutions, which I will outline in a second. If you want to comment on an ordinance, we will be each ordinance up for hearing. Tonight we'll actually have a hearing, so you may comment on those ordinances at that point. Or if you want to comment on any other topic, you may do that at our second comment period. If you are going to comment on the items I'm about to outline, you're going to click on, if you're online, you're going to click on the hand to raise your hand. If you're on a phone, you're going to hit *9. And for security reasons, we cannot recognize anyone listed as anonymous or a call without a phone number identified. When you are recognized and unmuted, you must first state your name and address before you start any comments, and failure to do so may result you in being muted or disconnected. Then please state the agenda item, which is only one agenda item, or the resolution you're commenting on. If you're not commenting on those, again, I will ask you to hold back until our second comment period or the ordinance hearings. Try to limit your comments to 3 minutes, but you will be given a 1-minute grace period and stop at 4. And so as not to take from your time, we will capture your questions and answer them either during discussions or after the discussion period. Anyone wishing to be heard, please raise your hand. And one of the things I'm going to start trying to do is I've got to outline the items you can comment on right now. But one of the things I am going to try to do is, since when we used to be able to attend meetings in person, you could see how many people are in the room. We have 19 attendees that are attending the meeting right now. These are the items you may comment on at this period. The budget hearing, and it's only related to electric utility, water utility, and public works. And these are the ordinances or resolutions you may comment on. Resolution 47, appointing Robert Landrigan to the position of Emergency Manager Coordinator. He's returning to the role he had previously. John Rafter had to resign from that position. This is a 3-year term through December 31st, 2023. Resolution 48 is special event permit for Summerhill Park by Boy Scouts of America Patriots Pack 7 and Troop 7, and this is throughout the year. Resolution 49 is ratifying special permit to allow use of Summerhill Park by St. Vincent Martyr Church. Resolution 50 is resolution supporting the Madison Environmental Commission Green Vision Forum annual event. We had skipped last year, but now it's gone virtual, and that will be on Wednesday, March 24th from 6:30 to 8. Resolution 51 is preserve funding of reserve for sustainability infrastructure improvements within electric utility capital. This is money that was appropriated in the 2020 budget, was not spent, and so it will be reserved so it can be spent in a future year. Resolution 52 is authorizing payment in the amount of $15,236 to Matina and Sons for the water main work that has been already outlined. This is the overpass, under the overpass. Resolution 53 is supporting the application of New Jersey Transit grant for electric bus. Resolution 54 is confirming membership of Patrick Colligan in the Madison Hook and Ladder Company number 1. And resolution 55 is ratifying use of community pool by Cub Scout Pack 226 on January 23rd. Resolution 56 is settlement of certain tax appeals related to Geralda 5, which is the Allergan building. Resolution 57 is authorized execution of reimbursement grant agreement with Hartley Dodge Memorial Foundation. And resolution 58 is ratifying or confirming the membership of Randy Vargas in Madison Hook and Ladder Company number 1. So you may comment on those resolutions or the agenda item. And we have Sandy Kalikowski. Be unmuted. You can state your name, address, and the item you are commenting on.
I'm not sure if I'm at the right time, Mayor. I wanted to comment about the ordinance that's up for hearing.
That will be, yep, just stay nearby, and that will be having a hearing shortly. Ordinance, so the ordinance will be after this discussion.
Section? Okay, thanks.
Yep, we'll see you back in shortly. And seeing no other hands up, we will close this first discussion period, and now we will move on to agenda discussions, which is a budget hearing, electric, water utility, and public works. And Jim, you're going to lead us off.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'll be launching the PowerPoint in a second. Bear with me, and we'll go forward from there. Going to talk quickly. A number of these slides, as council knows, are often in the presentation, so I'm not going to talk to them. It's just there for additional reading material should there's someone from the general public download this off the website. All these items are available on RoseNet. As Councilwoman Bailey said, we'll be talking about electric utility, water utility, and then the financial performance of the utilities. Councilwoman Bailey also talked about the proposed hearing schedule, and I'm just going to skip through these. They're just good background information if people are interested in learning more about the budget and the budget process, the breakdown of your tax bill. And from there, I'm going to hand it off to Jim Mattina, and hopefully his technology is working okay, and he is now a panelist. Jim, are you there? I'm going to run over and make sure he's unmuted.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Can you see me? Start my video.
And now we can see you. All
There
right.
we go. Okay, we're going to start with the 2020 completed projects. Not going to go through all of them, just the main ones. We finally completed the 2019 tornado damage. It was a lot of damage. Like you said, we do a temporary job, put people back in power, then we go back later to put everything complete. And then everyone knows about the August 4th storm. The tropical storm did a lot of damage on Maple Avenue. That's all completed. We did some upgrade on our side streets that have very old undersized wires. Holden Lane, Sayre Court, Buckingham Road. We did D Hart Place last week, and it's a good training for our younger guys that are just started. We completed a safety training this year, bucket truck rescue, pole top rescue, and we participated in additional MEL safety training by Zoom. And my goals and objectives this year that we're going to try to do, we're going to continue to upgrade our tie points. We're going to try to James Park substation. We want to install an oil circulation system on the two transformers that are left over there. It helps to keep your transformer oil clean. We did already 2 of them about 3-4 years ago. We got to do 2 more. Like to do the water well on Station Road. That's a Bob Vogel project. We're waiting on him so we can put a new transformer, pole, and underground wires there. Okay, let's go to the next page. Ongoing activities. I'm not going to go through it all. If you have any questions, this is what we do every day, every year. My special projects, James Park substation, we're going to replace the relays. That's going to start in 2 weeks. The contract that's helping us right now, they're up in Butler, changing out a big breaker up there. So they got tied up a little bit. Sampson Avenue Prospect tie circuits, we're still working on them. And we continue to reinforce our electric department. All the lines, like we said, we do our own trimming now. We saved like $50,000. I'm really proud of my guys. They work 8 hours a day in the heat, and they go back out for another 3 hours a night to do some trimming. And my special projects, like I said, James Park, the relays and gauges, and continued reinforcement on all our infrastructures. My capital projects, replacing streetlights with LED lights. We just finished Noe Avenue today. What we're trying to do is every other light and keep the high pressure sodiums in the middle so we don't use up all the LED lights right now. When the high pressure sodium light goes bad, we can't fix it, then we put up an LED light. I hate to throw something away that's good, that's working. Continue repairs at the Water and Light Building. As you know, the Water and Light Building is over 100 years old. There's always something breaking. And continue installing smart meters. And reserve funding for the future substation repairs. That's 150,000 a year, goes into a fund, just in case something happens in our substations. And I like to replace a pickup truck this year. I might try to do it next year. It's still running pretty good. So if we could maybe do it next year, we'll do it next year. And our feeder tie points. We've been after this one for a long time, Prospect Street, Madison Avenue. It's an underground system. The problem is when the contractor did the pipe, he didn't glue the pipe. So we think the pipe is separated. We can't get through. So we're going to try to do it again this spring. If we can't do it, we'll just forfeit it and give the money back. Any questions?
All right, Jim, thank you for your efficiency in maintaining our grid and efficiency in doing a presentation. So, Deb.
I just have two quick questions. First of all, thank you for all you guys do. I have friends in various towns that are always jealous of how quickly we get power back on the off chance that we do lose it. On the ongoing activities, you had transformer replacement, approximately 25 anticipated. Are those typically we have 25 things a year where a squirrel causes a problem or something like that, or preventative sort of things?
Both.
Both. Okay. And then the other question on the budget itself, the parking lot lighting, is that just general? You do that, it's budgeted every year and you would deal with whatever lights need to be updated or dealt with?
Yes.
And then the final question on the Cook Avenue parking lot situation, I know there's been trouble with the utilities and trying to get them to move what they need to move. So are we hopeful that that's going to happen this year? I don't know if there's an update on that.
They're still talking. The update is not yet. They're still talking.
Okay.
It might
Fair
cost a
enough.
little too much money here. I just want to say one thing, that Cook Avenue parking lot, we put them LED lights up there about 10 years ago, and we never had to go back and do anything to them.
That's impressive.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Energy saving and in both ways of the power used and the
Yep.
manpower. Rachel and then Bob Landrigan.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you, Jim. That was a great report. Always a pleasure to hear from you and to hear about your accomplishments and your goals. I appreciate the information you helped me with in order to prepare this update tonight that I gave on actions last year and our look ahead. I know there's been a lot of talk about the streetlights. They're one of our most, let's say, visible signs that we are making improvements and investments in our efficiency and our infrastructure. We've replaced 250 so far, and I know you've outlined what the approach is for starting with the main streets and then working into the side streets with alternating fixtures. The replacement lamping, or maybe it's the entire head, I guess, that has
It's
the
entire
lamping
head,
built
yes.
into it that you replace. Are they costly to replace? I mean, what's the cost of one of these things?
Well, the smaller ones that we do on the side streets are like $162. And the high pressure sodiums are like $132. So it's like a $30, $40 difference. It's really not much, because in the savings, you're saving 59% in savings. And then the maintenance savings, where it's like 75 to 85%, we don't even got to go back and do anything to them. So in the long run, you're probably better off with these LEDs.
So the 59% you're referring to is the energy savings, right?
Energy
That's
savings,
the
yes.
efficiency and the cost of operating them. And then, of course, as you say, if you put it up and it's there for 10 years, then that's a terrific investment for us.
Yep.
So obviously this is, seems like a win-win. I see we don't have a line for streetlights per se in the budget, but I'm wondering, does the operating budget have the money in it to purchase more? And I'd like to see if we can, aggressively target additional lights this year, another 200 if we can.
Yeah, that's great. I got some money in my budget to do that.
I think that's
So-
something we should prioritize for 2021.
So the the 5-year capital plan here and the capital spend that Jim's requested in 2021, if it turns out that Jim is able to go through all the money in his operating budget and he's got some money in the capital ordinance that he hasn't spent yet that has funds for LED lights, if he needs to come back to council and is able to get ahead of it and wants to install and is able to install more LEDs, just would come to you with a funding ordinance and be able to set that money aside. There is money in electric capital to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while to do the whole town. We have over 240 streets in the town, so we have a lot of lights to replace. Like I said, we just did Noe Avenue today. I like to do this year, I like to do like Woodland Road, Prospect Street, Green Avenue, Green Village Road, if we can. So I might have to order some more lights.
That's great. That's a great look ahead, and I appreciate your continued focus on this. Thank you for the report.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Hey, Bob and then Austri.
Yeah. Jim, it's Bob Landrigan.
Hi, Bob.
Quick question for you. With more and more people working from home now, has that put an additional, let's say, demand on your department, you know, for electrical outages and whatnot?
Yes and no. You can't just shut people off without notifying them because everybody is working from home.
Right.
So that's why we are definitely going around more and looking for bad spots on the streets, upgrading our streets so we don't have any outages. Try not to have any out, and it's been working fine. We haven't had any outages for a while.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Austri.
Yeah, hi, Jim, it's Austri.
Hello.
I have a question about the Dodge Field maintenance of the lights. We're putting, looks like $10,000 in now and then next year and next year. What exactly is that for? I mean, it seems like it's expensive is what I guess I'm saying.
That's actually something that typically Bob Vogel, Jim, if you want me to answer. If
Yeah,
you
go
want me to
ahead.
answer,
That's
okay.
fine. That's
Bob
fine.
Vogel typically puts in a request through the electric utility. We're kind of holding those lights together. It would be very, very expensive to replace all the lights. And fortunately, Russ Brown and Jim Burke and Jim Matina get in there and do this required maintenance. And instead of spending $500,000 to upgrade all the lights, we're just spending a small fraction on maintenance.
And the lights are sufficient for what we're doing at Dodge Field?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Okay, so this is better way to go than upgrading the whole system.
For now, yes, I think so.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments for Jim? All right, thank you very much, Jim. And
Thanks, Mayor.
thank you.
Okay, Mayor, if it's okay, we will head and ask Ken O'Brien to come up and talk for a brief few minutes about both the operations in Public Works as well as the water utility.
Good evening, council members. Can you hear me?
Yep.
We got
Okay, good. Jim, you'll work the slides for me.
Yes, sir.
So some of the accomplishments we had in 2020, I can go a little bit into them in the established and expanded the recycling center. That's still going forward into 2021. We were able to open the recycling center and now we're going to start expanding it. We didn't do a full source recycling type thing. We're going to phase in items. We're working on a compactor that I went and looked at last week that's going to be coming. It's getting the final touches on it now, the painting. And what that'll do is in our bid, we pay a few $100s for trucking of dumpsters when they get full of cardboard and recycling. Now we'll be able to put those into a compactor truck, and for every 3 or 4 of those trucks, there'll only be 1 compactor truck going out. So that is a very big plus for us, not only in revenue, but then that's a whole lot less trucks coming up and down the road and driving through Madison, especially the older trucks. We work with the arborist and the shade tree management board to implement new tree protection ordinance. I had a little bit of input in that. I think they did a great job with it. The first application where that was really full swing was on Vinton, and the builder followed the protocols, and the arborist went there and visited him and did the plantings of the trees and told him what he could take down, what he couldn't take down, and I think it's worked well. It'll probably have to be tweaked here and there as we go forward, as we find things, but I don't think that was really all that expected. Our injuries, again, were down at the DPW. Very few injuries, but we do have injuries on occasion. One of them was a dog bite where they saw a dog running down the road and they tried to grab it. So we try to help out the residents whenever we can. We have new office staff and we're working with them, and we've created some efficiencies by moving some personnel around. And one of the things we're doing is we're trying to use the see, click, and fix a little bit more in a manner that is a little bit more adaptable to us. And it's just taking some time to get rolled out, but it's an efficient program and it'll be good for the borough to use long term. And I also work with the environmental boards on sustainable Jersey applications. So I'm working with Ellen from the Environmental Commission now. We're buying 2 leaf blowers that are fully electric and battery charged. It's becoming a little bit more common. I don't know if it'll be the solution just yet, but these ones that we're going to use are going to be have a battery, and so our downtown cleaner who does the sidewalks and stuff will be using one daily down there to blow the sidewalks off and around the trash cans, and then we'll put one in the Parks Department. And whether these are the 2 brands that we stick with or not, we're going to try them out. The other one will go in the Parks Department, which will be on a semi-daily use or however often they use it, and then we'll have a little bit of an idea which brand will better fit our needs. But they will be rechargeable and they will be no gas. You can go to the next slide, Jim. So the goals for 2021, continue to operate in a safe manner. Injuries, keep them down. Examine the benefits of combining the water utility and sewer utility, create a more unified department. Both utilities under one roof. We've talked about that in the past. However, now with some of the COVID protocols, we're actually have things separated a little bit more. We have part of the divisions working out of one building and part working out of the other. So we're looking forward to the end of the COVID, as is everybody else. The recycling center, one of the enhancements we're going to do is for electronics recycling. We are going to work with an electronics recycler to get that a little bit more user friendly. Right now, you can bring some electronics down and bring them to our yard, and we want to do that through the recycling center. But in the design of it, we weren't sure how that was going to work, so we're going to really work on it after we get the cardboard compactor and the paper compactor. And that is our next step to do that. And we had an online Zoom meeting with the local last week, the bargaining unit, and we've asked them for a meeting to get together with their membership to start having contract negotiations, and we can start that process sooner than later. In the Department of Public Works plan, we have a building, we call it the paint shed. It's not really a paint shed, but it's a utility shed that's in pretty poor shape. But we do a lot of construction stuff, woodwork, bench work. It holds paints and that type of stuff, and that's why it's called the paint shed, so they don't freeze, and it's in pretty poor shape. So we're looking down the road. I'll probably work with Dennis Harrington on a type building, and I'm hoping for a run-of-the-mill type building, nothing to reinvent the wheel on that. The materials handling bins, that's going to be part of the compact construction and the electronics recycling, and we're going to have to make some adjustments. And the electronics recycling, I'm talking to some of the people in the recycling areas that it's going to have to come up. So we got some concrete work, and you'll see a little bit of money in there for next 2021 to do some concrete work and some improvements down there. The vehicles, the Ford F-350 is a run-of-the-mill type mason dump we buy, which is a pretty common truck we need. 4-wheel drive, snow plow, heavy duty. And then we also looking to add another, what we call a hook lift truck. And the other name for that might be more common. It would be like a roll-off type truck. And so today that truck was out pre-treating the roads and doing that. And then he can take that body off and go right back to either leaf pickup or what it is, and has a two different applications on the back that it can be used for different things in the same day. It's proved really effective, and it's something that Madison should really continue to look at, going to those type of trucks. The F-150 hybrid, we're looking at that right now. Jim and I are waiting a little bit. They're just coming out, especially Ford's very big with them in the battery packs. We talked to our chief mechanic Chris about it, and they're in full production, but they're not in full production that we want to be one of the first ones with it. So it's certainly on our agenda to do, but not be one of the first ones to do it. And I don't know, what's the next slide, Jim?
Water
So,
utility capital.
The water utility, I work with Bob Vogel very close with this, and Tom DiPiazzi, who is the foreman in the water department. And if you just go down, you'll see various improvements. And Bob Vogel, I think he's put some information out about the well-being improvements, the roof, the pumps, a few things like that. The annual inspection, that's a $5,000. You're gonna see that every year. That's where the building comes in, the pumps get inspected, they get tested, that type of stuff. One of the things that we're looking on is to do a little bit more security in the stations. You'll see that we're working with Joe Longo on that, Lieutenant Longo, on how we're gonna get that security in the cameras and what we're gonna do. And we're hoping to get a good amount of that accomplished this year. I just spoke to him about that today, and he's still working on getting that going. The other stuff you see, the water main replacement is stuff you'll see in bids that come out various times that Bob Vogel does. Some of it you'll see shady lawn and the Geraldo Loop, that's for to get better pressure. Water main replacements is an ongoing thing. Madison has mostly very good soils, but we've had to upgrade our water mains from some that were actually 6-inch still to 8 and 10-inch water mains to get better flow and for fire protection. It's very, very important. And then the operations and equipment, miscellaneous well upgrades. I think that's kind of electronics and the meter modules, which Jim Burnett is working on, which will be able to have like radio readers rather than having to have the meter readers go around and read every single meter and not have to enter people's houses when there's a problem reading the meter. I know that was brief and kind of quick.
Very
but-
good. No, well done. Good. We'll go to Deb and then Bob Landrigan.
So again, thank you for everything that you guys have done. It's great to hear that injuries continue to go down. Couple of questions on the, and you, I don't know if this is, you're the right person, but it kind of goes towards the combining the water and sewer utility. The sewer jetting that's happening right now all around town. Does that come from your budget? Does that come from somewhere else?
Yep, that comes from the sewer department budget. That's us. And that's
Okay.
a 3-year. We break the municipality up into 3 sections and we do a third of the municipality a year.
Got it. And then on the inside in the electronics recycling, will that, I know right now, like we've brought stuff down to PC Problems. Is that something you're going to hopefully do in conjunction with them? They've got a pretty well-established program.
they
Are
have
you
a-
hoping to make it bigger and more easier?
Well, they have a plan and we're not looking to take away from them. We're looking to, be a supplement. So we'll have an option for people to come down here. We have a private sector vendor will take TVs and, anything down to a cell phone really. And we'll be able to do that, but we're not looking to really be in competition with them. We're looking kind of as a supplemental type
Supplement.
thing.
And then the last thing, on the C-Click fix, you addressed it a little bit. It sounds like it's overall, it's working and just needs tweaking for what your specific uses are. Is that with regards to like what can be reported or who it goes to? I'm just curious.
As we're getting more used to it, there's 4 of us to get the reports and we try to answer it. And sometimes what we've noticed is someone does a C-Click fix and then they call 5 minutes later and say, give us the same report that they just sent a C-Click fix, but they don't tell us that. So we've had a couple instances where someone said their garbage was missed on the C-Click and fixed, but we know the street hasn't been picked up yet. So we drive down the street, the garbage is on front of everybody's house. But then we have to go back and see because they just called and said my garbage wasn't picked up. So it's
Right.
just a little bit of things, we try to tell people if your garbage isn't picked up by 11, 12 o'clock, give us a call or send us a message. But when you're calling at 8 o'clock in the morning, the garbage trucks aren't even halfway done. And we get those calls and then people do the same, like send the same thing. So we're working it out. It's, I think, a little bit of getting used to it.
Right. Well, and hopefully we can, once you all and the other departments using it are comfortable, hopefully we can do a PR thing for the public to get that they don't have to do, if they've done one, it covers, and hopefully we can cut down on some of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
And Bob?
Hey, Ken, and I got a question for you in regards to how you're operating with this COVID issue. You briefly touched on it before, and I know you said your injuries are down. And I guess I could have asked this of Jim Mattina as well, but what would happen, let's say, if one of your guys contracted COVID? One of the guys in the operations, let's say.
Yep, in the COVID circle, so to speak, there's a couple different areas of it. One is in the direct workforce. Right now, we have part of the workforce separated into another building. We've asked the guys to wear masks when there's two people in a truck, when they're working next to each other. It's very hard to do under some circumstances, whether you're in a hole and you got water flowing out, or, you know, you're in a back of a truck and you're shoveling stuff out and the guy on the ground is shoveling. So we're trying to make those improvements. The other thing we do is, like tonight, we got called out for a leaking water meter at someone's house, also a leaking boiler. So before he goes into the house, that water employee will ask them, have you had a COVID test? Have you been traveling out of the country? We have a protocol of a few different questions we ask the resident to take into consideration. And we tell them, if they're not comfortable, please call myself or call the police, and we'll try to make, you know, the next level of protocols to enter the house. But we try to have everybody operating, you know, as COVID-free as possible. We've been very fortunate. We've had a positive or two within the workforce, and we've had some near misses so far, but we haven't had to have a wholesale work stoppage or anything because of that. We're very fortunate, but thank you for asking.
Thank God for that. And all I can say is follow up on it. I mean, we always talk about first responders as being essential workers. Well, your department and Jim's department, both departments are essential work as far as I'm concerned. And I think most of the residents would be concerned as well.
I agree. We're in people's houses and we're talking to residents every day, whether it's a tree or drain problem or electric or water or sewer. We're in people's houses. We get called by contractors every day. You name it. We are involved in the community, you know, from the time you get up in the morning to the time you go to bed at night.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions for Ken? Rachel?
Hi, Ken. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight. Thank you for the report. I was excited to hear about the electric leaf blowers and the hybrid truck you mentioned. So it's clear that the department is thinking about efficiency, about savings, about reducing our carbon footprint. I'm wondering, are you, blue skying other ideas for energy efficiency? I'm thinking especially of building performance and building efficiency, since you operate, the facilities for the DPW, and also other opportunities for electrification, both in terms of equipment and building systems. Are these things on your radar? And what are some of your goals?
For sure, they're definitely on our radar. We have a program where we've been replacing windows at one of the older buildings. We still have single pane windows, if you can believe that, in some areas of our garage. And as you know, I'm a fan of solar, and I believe that our garage roof is one of the biggest ones in town and probably could hold some solar panels. And we may not be able to feed much back to the electric utility, but we may be able to set off our costs and reduce our footprint in that facility, which is one of the bigger facilities in Madison and operates on a long schedule. So yeah, we're getting into it. We looked at an electric bus just a few days ago. I think there's something on the agenda for that tonight. That is our long-term goal, and I get it. And so as things come along, we're looking at it. And in the construction industry, besides batteries and a few things, it's not wholesale yet. You're not seeing backhoes yet that are, electric. You're starting to see them running more efficient and bigger batteries and stuff. You'll see that, but I'm aware of that, and that's our goal, to reduce the footprint, no doubt.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you very much, Ken. Well done.
Thank you all.
Okay, Mayor, I will jump back into the presentation. Jimmy talked about the 100-year-old building. There's a picture of it. It is over 100 years old. We're going to talk about the finances of the utility. Bear with me here. Let me get the thing going. I apologize. How have I gone backwards here? I'm not going to talk about these slides, but it is important for everyone to know that all this documentation and information is available on RoseNet. We feel like we're fully transparent with the budgeting process. I always love to point out that we've been transferring utility surplus since 1944. This annual report document here that I found in my dad's archives shows that, and always happy to show that to people. Residential rate comparison. This mayor hasn't really changed that much in the past year, but you can see that multiple municipal utilities have increased their electric rates since 2016. We have gone down by 10.5%. And in terms of our total cost, we are at, for a customer that has 855 kilowatt hours of consumption, the monthly bill would be $154.55. And that is, very much in line with Atlantic City Electric, Rockland, and PSE&G. JCP&L is still the outlier with lower rates, but they have the largest increase in rates out of any of the investor-owned utilities, and their rates are going to continue to climb. And I think we all understand how poor, at least in our opinion, their service is and how great Madison's service is. So I just want to point that out. So this is our portfolio of contracts, just to publish it on an annual basis. We made a couple of purchases to close out this bucket in 23-24, and a couple of purchases to continue out in to 2029. Administration's goals and objectives are security hardening, and I do want to point this out. This is an important point. Council's aware of this. It's not publicly out there. I want to make the public statement now. We're in the process of negotiating a new interconnection agreement with JCP&L. We have to do this. This is legal. If we don't do it, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission will have problems, and JCP&L will just file one. So we're in the midst of negotiating it, and that interconnection agreement will require up to $1 million in substation and infrastructure repairs. We will be talking about those repairs in the coming months. But over the years, we've been reserving money to fix the substations. This infrastructure upgrade won't be fixing the substation. It will be doing certain upgrades. We have 1.35 million reserved for in the substation reserve. We may have to use $1 million of it just for what we need to do for the interconnection agreement. So I know there's always been concerns about why are we reserving so much money and everything, and I'm just going to stop sharing, and hopefully you all can see me. I think administration and council has done a great job reserving and being financially cautious, and I'm just going to hold up this article here that was in the Bergen Record that talks about 86 towns that had to issue emergency bonds because their financials were in such bad shape. Because we reserved, because we were cautious, because we had a surplus policy, because we followed strategic planning guidelines set by Ben Wolkowitz and the strategic planning committees, we are not in a situation where we're in this article where it says COVID has ruined the town's finances. So I just kind of want to bring that up and see if I can get back to sharing the screen now real quick, because I told the mayor I was going to be quick here. Hold on, I want to share this screen. So that's an important point that needs to be out there. We'll be talking about it more, but I wanted to make sure it was out there now. Council's aware of it, and we'll be dealing with that in the coming months as we talk about the budget. We have goals for automated meters, and Rachel Ehrlich, Councilman Ehrlich, talked about a lot of what we've done in that regard. This is our AMI portal. It's really cool. And Rachel was actually quoting some of this information. I'm logged in here, and it just shows all the electric devices and the water devices that we have that are either in service or sitting on the shelf ready to be installed. We can go in and see load profile of a particular resident. These are our gatekeepers here. They're the collectors that are, and it's telling us they're all working fine and collecting the metering data. This is the schedule of electric utility performance, and I'm just going to highlight a couple of things. Collections were off due to the pandemic, but they're not as bad as we had originally estimated. There was an increase in residential consumption. Councilman Landrigan referenced it. A lot more people at home working. So that residential consumption offset a significant drop in commercial office buildings, and Drew University. Drew was obviously effectively closed last semester. The commercial buildings are at somewhere in the magnitude of 20% occupancy. So our cash collections, as you can see here, we had kind of initially estimated them to be 2.7 million. They were off by about $530,000. The next item is the electric utility dividend, and this is a rate that we set, and we hope that it gets close to $2 million. We had it at $1.5 million this year. We came close. We had it at $2 million this year. We came close. We had it at $2 million for 2020, and because sales were lower, the electric utility dividend was just a little bit lower. So, but still, we did a good job, and residents received that money back. And if you look at it over a multi-year period, they received $1 million, 1.5 million, 2 million, 2 million. So it's 2, 4, $6.5 million they've received in electric utility dividend that's been returned back to the customers because we've been able to run the utility effectively and well and still keep our rates. Remember, our rates are similar to PSE&G and others. And look, I highlighted it right there. So 6.482 million is what we've been able to return in the dividend based on the good stewardship and good leadership from council. The COVID rebates. So the mayor had created a toolkit, and we had offered electric rebates to small businesses and to residents that needed it. So residents received a $200 credit on their bill. Small businesses received a $400 credit on their bill. We had 154 small businesses and 347 residents take advantage of this. So that resulted in $131,000 being distributed to the residents. Obviously, if we had more rebates given, then our cash collections would have been lower. So, but important to show, I think that was a really effective program. Sustainability, Councilwoman Ehrlich mentioned it, and Mayor mentioned it, that there was a resolution on for this evening. $200,000 was in the proposed budget. If we don't spend it, it lapses into reserves. So we have a resolution on this evening that will reserve those funds and have them available. To be honest, we could use these funds on that substation repair that I talked about that we have to do for the interconnection agreement. But if we don't have to use those, they could be used on the solar that we have been talking about and that Councilwoman Ehrlich mentioned, and Jimmy talked about, or Ken talked about putting solar on the roof. Jimmy has a new pole barn. We could potentially use these funds to install solar and increase the renewable energy that the borough uses and distributes to our customers, and obviously potentially reduce our costs. Fund balance, formerly known as surplus. Every other CFO calls it fund balance, and I'm going to bite the bullet and try to encourage all of us going forward to call it fund balance. Fund balance, formerly known as surplus. Stable fund balance confirms that utilities on solid financial footing. S&P and other rating agencies look for stable fund balance. We are in a stable situation right now in the electric utility. We generated 6.6 million, and we used 6.6 million in the municipal budget. So effectively, the fund balance almost stayed exactly the same from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. So in general, the short summary is that the electric utility is in a good financial position at this point. As discussed, our new interconnection agreement with JCP&L will mandate $1 million in expenses. We have 1.35 million reserved at substation. Fund balance could also be used for the interconnection agreement repairs. And this decision will be a decision that will be part of the budget discussions that will come in February. It's exactly how we're going to fund the substation reserve in 2021, where we funded at $150,000 or more, and then how we're going to actually pay for the mandated upgrades that Jason from our interconnection agreement. So, finally, this is just something you've heard me say, but I just want to highlight it in red. Transmission costs have quadrupled in the last 5 years. What is transmission cost? There's three main costs to electricity. There's, as Mr. Booker from the physics class in high school taught me, there's the moving electrons that actually make the lights go on. It's the generation of electricity that the generators provide, and it actually works our appliances. There is the transmission of that electricity from the generation units to Borough of Madison on the highways. It's paying the toll for the highways. Those are the high tension wires. And then there's the capacity costs, which Councilwoman Ehrlich mentioned in terms of the need to pay to have our capacity, make sure that there are enough peaker plants and enough electric generation in the grid for the hottest days of the year. We do go into some discussion. These are slides that are here just for anyone who wants to do a deeper dive. I talk about the calculation of our capacity bill. It's $2.3 million I just referenced. That's one of our three major costs: the electrons, the tolls on the highway, and the capacity bill. So that's in there if people want to learn more about that. I'm going to jump to water utility if it's okay, and then do questions at the end. Hopefully I'm not going too fast, but I know folks might have questions. I assume that's okay, Mayor?
Sounds good. You're on a roll.
I'm on a roll. Okay, here's a cool little picture of the water towers on Midwood Terrace when they were big tanks. So we've had a significant investment in the water utility. We have capital plans that include over $1 million. And we're also hoping to appropriate $1 million in funds this year for a large deployment of water meters and modules. Probably the project wouldn't happen until 2022, but we think we should appropriate it at the end of 2021 so we can do the work in 2022. This would be replacement of a significant number of water meters in town, trying to get as many, if not all, the water meters replaced and the new modules on it. So they would be part of the plan. But this shows the amount of capital that the council has been investing in our water utility. You hear about other water utilities having water main breaks in other towns that are really struggling. We're not in that situation. Council's done a great job investing in the water utility. Water utility financial performance, not much to talk about. Had a decent year. We want to be conscious of fund balance, formerly known as surplus. We want to be conscious of that. We started out at 2 million. We dropped to 1 million. Part of that was because we used a lot of it to advance some capital, but it's something that we need to keep an eye on. And I'm not saying council should consider it now, but later on in the year and the following year, administration feels pretty strongly that Madison should consider a water rate increase. Madison has some of the lowest water rates in the area. This is a chart from last year. I don't think the rates have changed much. Special thanks to Taylor Peterson for putting this together. But you can see that Madison, a resident would pay $248 for 2,000 cubic feet of water consumed quarterly. It's much higher at other utilities, whether you're in Chatham Township, Bergen, Warren, Morristown, Denville, Chatham Borough, or Farm Park. We are by far the lowest utility in terms of costs for water in the area. So I wanted to point that out. With that, I'm looking at the time. I think I did a good job, Mayor. Kept it within 15 minutes, and I will field questions.
Well done. I'll start the question going back to, I don't need to go back to the slide, but the comparison of electric rates, that is the actual rate. So not after the netting of dividends, is that correct?
This is net of the dividend, Mayor. This rate is net of the dividend.
Net of dividend. So, okay, so
Yes.
that is the actual, yep. Okay.
Yep.
Wanted to make sure, so, but compares well. Other questions? But bless you, Deb.
Well, we're not asking for any decisions this evening. This is just information. We will have a more longer and deeper discussion on the electric utility and how it works with the municipal budget and the water utility and how it works with the municipal budget in upcoming budget hearings.
All right, we're good. Well done.
Thank you, Mayor.
Ken and Jim, thank you for joining us, and you can head on home. And now we move on to ordinances for hearing. Will the clerk please read the statement?
The ordinances scheduled for hearing were introduced by title and passed on first reading at the regular meeting of the council held on January the 11th, 2021. All were posted and filed according to law, and copies were made available to general public requesting same.
I call up ordinances for second reading and ask the clerk to read said ordinance by title, ordinance 1-2021.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison adopting a redevelopment plan for lot 1.01 in block 1601 in accordance with NJSA 48:12A-7.
I open the hearing. Claire, I see your hand up. Is you're commenting on this ordinance?
No, I think I have the wrong time. Can I make a comment on one came before and let me know what time one can?
Yeah, that'll be the general comment period. That'll come up a little bit later. So.
Okay, bye.
All right, thank you. All right, seeing no other public comments, I close the hearing.
Mayor, I move ordinance 1-2021.
Second,
Any council discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Byrne,
yes.
Mr. Hoover,
yes,
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich,
yes,
Mr. Landrigan.
yes,
I declare ordinance 1-2021 adopted and finally passed and ask the clerk to publish notice thereof in the newspaper and file the ordinance according to the law. Ordinance 2-2021.
Ordinance to the Borough of Madison amending Article 6 of the Water of the Madison Land Development Ordinance regarding stormwater management.
I open the hearing on ordinance 2-2021. Any of the public wishing to comment, please raise your hand. Seeing none, I close the hearing.
Mayor, I move ordinance 2-2021.
Second.
Any council discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Byrne,
Yes,
Mr. Hoover,
Yes,
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich,
yes,
Mr. Landrigan.
yes,
I declare ordinance 2-2021 adopted and finally passed and ask the clerk to publish notice thereof in the newspaper and file the ordinance according to the law. Call up ordinance 3-2021.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison rescinding Chapter 195-11, Section A through H of the Borough Code entitled Appeal to Governing Body, permitting review by Borough Council of Board of Adjustment final decisions.
I open the hearing on ordinance 3-2021. And Sandy, you are recognized. Please state your name and address and try to keep your comments to 3 minutes, but we'll give you the 1 minute grace period. Welcome.
Sandy, just unmute yourself, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Sandy Kolakowski, 136 Park Avenue, Madison, New Jersey. I'm here to voice a strong objection to ordinance 3-2021. I might be one of a handful of people who would even have this on their radar due to the work that I've done with the nonprofit group Save Madison Theater. I think there's a number of important questions that need to be addressed before the council takes a vote on this. First, why was this ordinance put into the Borough Code originally? Before you remove something, I think it's important to know the reasoning behind why your predecessors felt it important enough to include. It's been referenced that it was adopted in the Borough Code in the 90s. Why was it originally incorporated into the code? Or has it always been in the code but clarified or modified in the 90s? If you're going to make a decision to remove it, I think the public and members of the council should at a minimum have answers to those questions. 2, what's the criteria for this kind of appeal that this would affect? Why does the state allow this step on some zoning board decisions when they don't on planning board decisions? What's different about those decisions? That needs to be explained publicly so we know every member taking a vote tonight understands the difference. I think that someone needs to spell out the actual criteria before the vote is taken. 3, in the spirit of transparency, I think we should know who brought this issue up. Was it an attorney? At whose request? Shouldn't we know who brought this to the governing body's attention? I think the public deserves an answer to who introduced this. 4, who potentially benefits from this change? Who is potentially harmed? Has this been explained to the council and the residents? To say we want to streamline the appeals process is a tidy answer, but don't we also need to know who benefits and who might be harmed? 5 is, why does this have to be taken up now? The state municipal law, land use law allows for this. So we aren't changing it to be in compliance. The town is reeling from the pandemic. The loss of life and devastation it has brought to our small town would have been unimaginable a year ago. I understand the wheels of government have to keep turning, and I appreciate the work that the mayor and council and everyone who works at the borough has to keep doing under the most difficult of circumstances. I think it's reasonable to expect the focus of this body.
One minute, Sandy.
I hope you'll let me finish my statement, Mayor. I'm the only one speaking this evening.
No, I
Thank
had,
you.
I had to be consistent, so I will give you an extra 20 seconds on your 4 minutes, but I have to end you at the 4+.
I'm sorry, I've lost my place. Why does this part of our borough code that has been exercised a small number of times over the past decades need to be rescinded now? I find it very concerning that you're voting to revoke a longstanding right of members of the community during a time when the community has much more pressing problems. Finally, I'd like to hope that in a world that has been sharply focused on issues of diversity, including socioeconomic status, equity, increasing justice and fairness within the procedures and processes of institutions, and inclusion, creating governing environments in which any individual or group is valued to fully participate. This body should be clear on changes to the borough code or any other actions you are taking works or weakens those principles. From my vantage, this change in the borough code works against all three. I think the governing body appeal is an important step in controlling out of control or bad development. That it may not be the final word on development or didn't stop a previous development does not mean it did not positively affect the process or the outcome. But to cut that-
Sorry, Sandy. I gave you some extra time to. Anyone else wishing to comment on this ordinance? We will address those most of those issues during the discussion. Sandy, appreciate your input and questions there. Seeing none, I close the hearing.
Mayor, I move ordinance 3-2021.
Second.
Right, I'll try to address some of Sandy's comments, and this was some of this has been shared with the Madison Eagle also. But so as was stated 2 weeks ago, and also to the planning board when they reviewed this for consistency with the master plan, this is to clear up inconsistencies in our land use ordinances. The appeal process rescinded only applies to certain zoning board adjustment decisions, primarily use variances. Planning board decisions have to be contested through the judicial system. So depending on your type of application, you go to one of the two respective boards, and but the appeal process right now could be different based on your application. While state laws do, as stated already, do allow towns discretion to hear or not hear certain zoning board appeals before heading to court, most end up in court anyway. For example, there was a appeal of an application that was initially denied on Walnut Street that went directly to the courts as it did not meet the criteria of a council appeal. Now, since the current ordinance was put in place in 1993, and we look back there were only 2 appeals that we're aware of that went to the council, both in pre my time here, so it goes back a number of years. One was Madison Honda expansion, and the other was the Sunrise Living. Both projects did end up moving forward. I don't know the details on the appeal. Our legal professionals, both our borough attorney, our planning board attorney, our zoning board attorney, have recommended that a uniform appeal process be in place for both boards, and those that are aggrieved by land use decisions should seek their remedy directly through the judicial system. It should be noted that in no event would the council have been the final appeal. So if the old ordinance stayed in place, an appeal to the council would most likely end up in the courts anyway. If the appealer was not happy, or if it was overturned, they were not happy. This ordinance therefore not only makes the process consistent across land use boards, but the application types, but it also streamlines the process for both the applicant and the opponents. It should be noted that both the Zoning Board of Adjustment and Planning Board members must attend courses on land use laws in order to serve on those respective boards. This is not required of council members, which in the essence puts the appeal board at a lower knowledge level than that of a land use board. And to the question of why now, it was clear from attorneys that the appeal to the council is not a recommended process, and that the 1993 ordinance should be repealed so that all appeals are consistent. And following the approval process that was, and that we should start following an approval process that was in the hands of appointed boards with an appeal process directly to the courts and not elected bodies. And since this is a strong legal recommendation, it really should be taken care of immediately. It doesn't make sense to put it off so one appeal or two appeals can come to the council. If it doesn't work, it should be stopped. Any other further discussion, Austri?
Right, I just wanted to say that and emphasize that whatever the mayor just said was what our attorney said at the planning board session. We discussed it thoroughly, and he says it's way more appropriate for a judicial body to review appeals from the zoning board and the planning board decisions, that the borough council is a political body and should not be making those decisions. And I was involved with the Sunrise case. I was the chair of the Zoning Board of Adjustment when it went before the council. And it was a messy process. It wasn't, in my opinion, it wasn't appropriate, but anyway.
If I could just add a couple items, just so for everyone's edification. First, the only time you can go to a council is if a use variance is granted, not if it's denied. So if the zoning board denies a use variance, the applicant can go right to Superior Court. That's their remedy. When a use variance is granted, a D variance is granted, the only time it can go to a council under the land use law is if objectors file an action before the council. What's important to know, though, is both under state law and even your municipal ordinance, it's discretionary by the council. Because your ordinance says right now that if you fail to render a decision within such specified period, which is 95 days after the publication of the notice, it's deemed an affirmance of the decision. So I've been in other municipalities where what they do is if they don't think they have sufficient knowledge or understanding of it, they just don't act. It took 95 days lapses, and then the objectors can then go to Superior Court, which delays the process. The other fundamental thing that people have to understand is this is a very expensive process to challenge a D variance. So you have to have transcripts of the full hearing. If you were to have it at the municipal level, we have to provide a transcript. So they're going to have to order transcripts from the zoning board. Then you're going to get a transcriber or stenographer at the municipal level. The challengers will have to order all those transcripts. And then ultimately, after you conclude, whether if you guys grant or deny it, if you overturn the variance, the applicant can go to Superior Court anyways. So this entire process, 99% of the time, ends at Superior Court. So what you're doing is you're helping streamline the process. You're saving your residents additional monies, because generally when you get into these types of fights, they're going to need to retain legal counsel. And so you're going to be paying for legal counsel before the municipal body and then again before the Superior Court. And I can tell you that, as the mayor just noted, understanding land use laws is a complex and arduous thing. And probably the body that knows land use laws better than your own zoning board is judges, because they do this all the time in looking at the granting or denying of use variances. So our recommendation is consistent with the planning board's attorney and the zoning board attorney, which is that this is really a step in the process that's not necessary. It's burdensome on the council, it's burdensome on your residents, and it just elongates the process. You're better off going to the Superior Court if there's a challenge either way. You're letting a Superior Court judge exercise their expertise in reviewing the transcripts at the zoning board below and then making it a judicial determination.
Thank you, Matt. Matt Jacoby, our borough attorney. Just to clarify again, let's say, for example, a variance was granted for both height and for use. Under the current appeal process, the only thing that could be appealed to the council would be the use. They couldn't appeal the height.
That's
would-
correct.
Okay, so
Use
it's a very,
variances only, it's D use variances only.
Yep.
So if they were going to challenge the height and the use, you guys could only hear one aspect of it. And then you go to Superior Court to hear the height variance. So it really, the way the law was structured is it puts in an unnecessary step that I think will end up costing your residents quite a bit of money if they decide to challenge the granting of a use variance. And you got to remember something, they're a very important factor. You, the governing body, appoints the zoning board members. But once they're appointed, you can't interfere with them. That's a quasi judicial body. In fact, if you approach a zoning board member and try to influence their decision, that's actually criminal. The zoning board acts as a quasi judiciary body because what they're doing is they're granting or denying, but if they grant a variance, it's a variance from the master plan that you adopted. So when they exercise that power, they're doing it in a quasi judicial manner. And that's why going to Superior Court, the judge will be looking at whether or not they met the different criterias necessary under applicable law and case law as to whether the granting of such a use variance was appropriate. So, you know, that just gives you an overview. It's a complex area, and frankly, the ones that I've been involved in, they all end up in Superior Court anyways. And then you have applicants or the objectors complaining, you know, we had to spend all this extra money for something and we ended up in court, and, you know, regardless.
and one last question, and I'll allow anyone else that has a comment. But so previously, the council had stated that because we might have been the appeal board, had it gone to the zoning board, we could not comment on. But your comments right there is that a council cannot influence a zoning board of adjustment. We really were limited. We couldn't discuss it anyway because that would have been determined to be trying to influence the zoning board or planning board decision.
Right. Now, remember, planning board's a little bit different because a planning board is in conformance with your master plan. So they're not seeking a variance from your master plan. And in fact, you have designees from the council on the planning board. The zoning board, your sole job of the governing, it's actually the council, is to appoint zoning board members. And once they're appointed, you can't try to influence their determinations. Not that dissimilar from, you know, a Supreme Court justice. Once they're appointed, they make the decision. So even though you have an appeal rate presently in your ordinance, it's still nevertheless under the law, you could not attempt to influence them, you know, appear before a zoning board and say, I think you guys should grant or deny this. That's their job and solely their job. And that's why it's important. And Mayor, as you pointed out, zoning board members go to training as do planning board members because it is a very complex area of the law. And they have to understand how to give weight to the negative criteria and the positive criteria when ultimately making decisions in this quasi-judicial body.
And thank you, Matt. Any other comments or questions? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Byrne,
You're muted there, Maureen.
Yes.
There we go. Thank you.
Mr. Hoover,
Yes.
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich,
Yes.
Mr. Landrigan.
Yes.
I declare ordinance 3-2021 adopted and finally passed, and ask the clerk to publish notice thereof in the newspaper and file the ordinance in accordance with the law. We now go on to our second of invitations for discussion. This is when you may comment on any topic. Hint, hint, Claire, yes, raise your hand now. Again, the same rules are in place that when we call you up, please state your name and your address. Try to keep your comments to 3 minutes, but we will give you the 1 minute grace period. If you fail to start with your name and address, we may have to mute you or disconnect you for security reasons. Claire.
Hi, my name is Claire Whitcomb. I'm at 12 Fairwood Road in Madison. This is really interesting. I thank everybody for their presentations. I'm super glad about the leaf blowers at the DPW and the LED lights. I had one question about lights. You know, light pollution is sort of a big issue environmentally. You know, lights that are on all night kill moths at a prodigious rate, and we have a kind of insect apocalypse going on. is it possible to look into sensor lights, which is like security lights that are motion censored, which apparently are more effective because they surprise you. So it would save us energy and it would be good for the environment. Also, in terms of what the utility power the utility is purchased, I would appreciate if there were clarity on what the where the energy comes from. Like, I don't know what BP is, and we've bought a bunch of BP energy for a long time. So this is kind of just so that there's transparency for the residents, so they can understand the carbon footprint of the utility. And the last thing I just wanted to mention was that I don't know how this is exactly working, but Chatham Borough has a big underground wire project. They're trying to work to bury wires. And I wondered if that was on our radar, because it certainly seems like it would be cost effective over the long term. So thank you, everybody. You're doing a great job. And this was a good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Just a couple of, we'll pass on the sensor lights. I don't know if there's common usage for street lights, but certainly a very good question. Source of power, we can make that available. What we can state is, you know, somewhat the portfolio of the particular company. So it could be the, you know, how BP generates their power. We can't state that, you know, our power is all wind or whatever if they have a certain percent, but at least you know the company has a track record in that area. The burying the wires is certainly a hot topic in North Jersey as a whole. I remember it's $1 to $2 million per mile. The Chatham scenario is a bold undertaking, especially since it's not their wires, but they'd work with JCP&L. Madison did this major undertaking for the downtown in the 1970s, I believe. So if you look at the historic pictures, you'll see the poles and overhead, and it certainly is something to look at. And every new, not that there's too many new developments in the in Madison, but as Austria knows in the newer one, that there are some neighborhoods that do have it buried. In the long run, it is better, especially when you love your trees, to have the lines underground. On the flip side, that when things go bad, it is a bigger challenge. The interesting thing, as I observed with Maple, the last home on Maple to be restored was the one that had their feed to the house underground. So there are extra challenges, but all good, very good points. And at this point, I see no one else ready to comment. So I close the public comment period and we go to introductory ordinances. Will the clerk please read the statement? Is you there?
Whoops, there we go.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
that's all
Ordinance
right.
is scheduled for first reading, have a hearing date set for February the 8th, 2021. All will be published in the Madison Eagle, posted on the bulletin board, and made available to members of the public requesting copies.
I call out the ordinances for first reading and ask the borough clerk to read said ordinances by title. Ordinance 4-2021.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison appropriating $26,720 from the Municipal Open Space Trust Fund for architectural plans and specifications at the Madison Masonic Lodge number 93.
Mayor, I move ordinance 4-2021.
Second.
Austria, you want to give a very quick background on this so the public understands?
Right. So we're trying to develop a public-private partnership with the Masonic Lodge. And we hired a consultant to put together construction plans for the work that needs to be done on this historic building to the county for a grant. We received part of the grant money, but we didn't receive the entire part of it. And so we need the open space to fill that gap. And then once the construction plans are drawn, then we're going out for another grant next year for the construction to save the building.
Thank you very much. Any further council discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Byrne,
Yes.
Mr. Hoover,
Yes.
Ms. Cohen.
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich,
yes,
Mr. Landrigan.
yes,
Ordinance 5-2021.
Ordinance to the Borough of Madison amending Chapter 94, Attachment 3, Appendix C, entitled Electric Utility Department Rules and Regulations.
Mayor, I move ordinance 5-2021.
Second.
This addresses transformers and other things. Any council discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Byrne,
Yes.
Mr. Hoover,
Yes.
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich,
Yes,
Mr. Landrigan.
yes,
Ordinance 6-2021.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison amending Chapter 195-27 of the Madison Borough Code entitled Land Development. Ordinance of the Borough of Madison regarding changes in elevation.
Mayor, I move ordinance 6-2021.
Second.
Any council discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Byrne,
Yes.
Mr. Hoover,
Yes.
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich,
yes,
Mr. Landrigan.
yes,
And ordinance 7-2021.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison appropriating $1 million from the General Capital Improvement Fund for the 2021 road reconstruction projects, related work, and miscellaneous projects.
Mayor, I move ordinance 7-2021.
Second.
Council discussion. Again, this is, we do this annually in January to get a head start to get our bids out on the street. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Byrne,
Yes.
Hoover,
Yes.
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich,
yes,
Mr. Landrigan.
yes,
And ordinance 8-2021.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison appropriating $575,000 from the General Capital Improvement Fund for the 2021 million overlay projects.
Mayor, I move ordinance 8-2021.
Second.
And it's the same as the last ordinance. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Byrne,
Yes.
Mr. Hoover,
Yes.
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich,
yes,
Mr. Landrigan.
yes.
Okay, now we move on to consent agenda resolutions. Will the clerk please read the statement?
Consent agenda resolutions will be enacted with a single motion. Any resolution requiring expenditure is supported by a certification of availability of funds. Any resolution requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda. All resolutions will be reflected in full in the minutes.
Mayor, I move resolution 47-2021 through resolution 58-2021.
Second.
Any council discussion or any that need to be pulled? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Byrne,
Yes.
Mr. Hoover,
Yes.
Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich,
yes,
Mr. Landrigan.
Yes to all, but I will be abstaining from resolution 47.
Thank you. And there is no unfinished business. Approval of vouchers. Will the clerk please read the voucher totals?
The current fund, $3,892,240.62. The general capital fund, $14,160.53. The electric operating fund, $561,050.23. The water operating fund, $1,925.37. The trust, $24,309.75. The total being $4,493,686.50.
Mayor, I move the vouchers.
Second.
Have any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Byrne,
Yes.
Mr. Hoover,
Yes.
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich,
yes,
Mr. Landrigan.
Yes,
And I should have mentioned this right with the vote with the resolutions. Mr. Landrigan abstained from 47 because that's the one that's appointing him as our OEM coordinator. So that is the conflict there. Thank you. Under new business, I'd like to make these, the following appointments requesting council confirmation. These are all Board of Ed representatives to these various committees. And for one-year terms, Complete Streets, Tom Pascula, Recreation Advisory Committee, David Irwin, Sustainable Madison, Sarah Fisher, and for an unexpired term through, I believe, December 31st, 2022, Stephen Pindell for the unexpired term of John Regan.
Mayor, I move the appointments to the various committees.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, that was unanimous. And the last thing,
Mayor, Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Well done. And we will
Night.
see you.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Well.